Trooper Proctor. Michael Proctor fired by Massachusetts State Police for actions in Karen Reed investigation. Proctor was found guilty on 2 charges following the proceedings. There's immediately going to be a question. Does this mean he will have criminal charges? No, not necessarily. This is purely connected to the trial board for him to be terminated. This is a work thing. So the terminology of charges and guilty is not a criminal thing. It is a workplace thing. So just keep that in mind as we're going through the languaging here. The board convicted Proctor of unsatisfactory performance and alcoholic beverages. Who is shocked? Is anyone shocked? Quote, our mission to deliver the highest level of police services depends on the public's trust in our professionalism and integrity. It is incumbent upon me, as well as every member of this department, to hold one another accountable when any member compromises our mission by failing to uphold our values, Noble said in a statement. As superintendent, my role demands that I do what is in the best interest of the department. My decision to terminate Mr. Proctor, not trooper, not officer, Mr. Proctor, follows a thorough, fair, and impartial process. The quote continues, I have weighed the nature of the offenses, their impacts on our investigative integrity, and the importance of safeguarding the reputations of our dedicated women and men in the state police. This decision reflects our unwavering commitment to upholding our values, enhancing public trust, and ensuring the highest standards of service and accountability. Finally, recognizing the ways in which this process has affected the family of Boston Police Officer John O'Keefe, I would also like to renew our condolences to them. Proctor has a right to appeal his firing to the Civil Service Commission, and he may appeal his firing to the Civil Service Commission. That should not forestall the ability for this to come up in trial. Mr. Michael Proctor was terminated from the Massachusetts State Police. That is surprising in that it was done before trial. What does it matter, really, that Proctor was fired before trial? Well, it allows the defense to A, question him more about it, and B, say to him or ask him, and you were terminated because of actions in this investigation. If this was still an open internal affairs investigation, it would not be able to be brought up in trial in the same way. The fact that there was disciplinary action taken and that he was relieved without pay, those were things that were subject to a motion in limine that the court hasn't covered yet. Will the court cover it tomorrow? Well, the motion is going to be a bit different now because the investigation is done. He has been fired. There were findings made against him for behavior as part of this investigation and other behavior that he testified to. So with that door being closed, yes, he can still appeal it on his end, but it closes that internal affairs investigation. And I think opens the door for that to be discussed in trial because the termination has happened and that is factual. And he is the lead investigator in this case. So I don't see any avenue to forestall the defense from inquiring about that. And the prosecution, I think, would have to get out ahead of it and ask about that. But I don't know how a jury responds to the lead investigator being fired in connection with the case that they're testifying about in a way other than questioning his credibility and his investigation. The jury instruction puts it very plainly about what they're allowed to use to test the credibility of a witness. And I think the jury will use that termination to test the credibility of Michael Proctor and further call the investigation into question. I don't know how the district attorney's office can sanitize that, or if the district attorney takes a completely different direction and says one bad apple does not ruin an investigation and throws Proctor completely under the bus. And when Proctor is under direct examination from Hank Brennan, Brennan goes all the way in and is like, you did this and you did this and you did that, so that the jury is left with the impression that the prosecution is also displeased with Michael Proctor. We will see what direction the prosecution chooses to take, possibly in court on March 20th, because we will be back in court for more motions in limine, though The defense has that pending motion for continuance. And if things are continued, there might not be need to finish those motions in limine on the 20th, depending on what the court decides. So we will have to wait for answers on that. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerd.app.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.